So I have these Historex figure kits, and I've decided to try kit bashing them into a statue. I started by attaching his legs together, and then the torso. Next came the tails of his coat, which needed to be cut down to get the shape that I wanted before I could glue them on. After that was finished, it was time for some filling and sanding. In fact, there was a lot of filling and sanding. Next, I attached the head and then glued his hat on. At this point, I was ready to add some accessories. A cravat was sculpted with a blend of green stuff and milliput, and then I fixed a sword to his side. To secure it, I took some plastic ribbon that can be found in many Historex kits and wrapped it around his waist as a sash. Since this figure had originally been a mounted one, I also needed to sculpt the tops of his boots on the inside leg. I didn't really do much to change the posture of the arms and simply pinned them to the torso with a small piece of wire. After that, it was ready for paint. To paint the statue, I started by mixing up some colors in a wet palette. I began with a dull metallic paint, along with some primary colors, and mixed them together to make a bronze, and then painted a layer of that color. To simulate corroded bronze, I mixed in some white and green to get a pale greenish metallic tint, and added that in a few areas using dry brush and washes. No statue is complete without a scattering of guano. To remedy this, I applied some watered-down milliput strategically in a few different places. To paint it, I used a thick daubing of acrylic paint to try and get as much texture as possible. I also added a small nest in the tricorn hat. The last thing to add was a few oil washes to give the finish a bit of tonal variation and depth, as well as to simulate water damage. Once that was done, I was happy with how the statue looked. I only needed somewhere to put it. To make a plinth, I took a piece of foam and covered the top and all four sides with cork. I then spread some modeling paste over this and sanded it to add some texture. Once this was done, I placed the statue on the plinth. To paint the stone texture, I used layers of acrylic washes, going from light to dark. I included some warmer colors, hoping that they would show through the darker layers on top. This was my first time trying this technique for stone, and I feel that it was pretty effective at simulating the randomness that you would expect to see in real life. Now, of course, every plinth needs a plaque, and I found one on an old glasses case. After I peeled the cover off the case, I cut a square section of that with some lettering and glued it to the plinth. I then painted it using the same technique that I did for the weathered bronze on the statue. To weather the plinth, I started by adding some more bird droppings. I then used oil paints to add some stains and streaks where necessary. Finally, with a red brush tip marker, I added a small finishing touch. In the next episode, we're going to talk about how it got there. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you around the next time.